All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I am coming to you now with my presentation for a program for the end of Chapter 5 for the AWD1100 C# programming or Programming Fundamentals with C# class. So I'm going to build this thing. The other thing I'm going to change is instead of 999, I think I'll make it 999. So I'm going to write this right now. Let me get this smaller. I think that was its real size there, so I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to start up a new instance of Visual Studio, and I'm going to have this kind of showing on the side there. So let's create a new project. It will be a Windows Forms app. I'm going to call it, what do they call it here? Change Calculator. Now I started to do this before, but when I did, my boss came in, so I stopped recording. So it ended up he was in here for quite a while. So all right, can I rename this? I accidentally put an extra character on the end there. All right, so change calculator and change calculator GUI. Okay, this will work. Let's make it about like that. Okay, and let's pretty it up a little bit from what we have been doing. So in other words, let's go to the back color, and I'm going to make it, I'll make it a green. Okay, all right, so now I want to come in here and I want to add this. So change calculator, and then I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 labels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 text boxes. 4 of those will be read-only, and 2 buttons. In fact, I'll put a third button in. I'll put a clear button in as well. So the first thing I want here is change calculator. So let's change the name of our form, and we'll call it FRM change calculator. These are all things you should just get used to doing when you first begin a project. It just makes sense. And I might as well change the default location to center screen. Try that again, to center screen. And we will change the text to change calculator. All right, so that's done. Come in and create my first label. And it's the long one. So I'm going to come up and immediately I'll change the color. This is just something I'm used to doing. Maybe it's silly, but it's how I do it. Change my auto size. That's quite a ways here, so I'll make that a little bigger. This might have to be actually made bigger. Okay, that's fine. So these are the pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters, I believe, unless I got it backwards, but doesn't matter really. So quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies, and this is amount of change due. All right, so let's put in our text boxes. And as you can see, when I do these, I just eyeball them. It sure as heck isn't perfect, but it's fine for what we're doing, in my opinion. Looks pretty decent. Now again, probably this is going to have to be moved over, and probably at least this one, in fact, I'll just make all of them, is going to have to be moved over as well, because the first label is pretty long. All right, let's move this over so it just looks a little more centrally located. That's not bad. All right, so this is quarters. So this will be LBL quarters. It will say quarters. All right, this will be dimes. So it will be, whoops, this will be LBL dimes. All right, this one will be nickels, so it'll be LBL nickels. Hopefully what you're getting out of this too, what you're gleaning out of this is by using good names, it makes it so much easier, all right, at least in my humble opinion, to see what's what in here, just to be able to understand what's going on in here. So pennies, LBL pennies. And they put like amount of change due here, so I'll just do that. I'll say LBL change due. And here I'm going to put this amount of change due, and it'll be 0 through 999. There's that. All right, and this will be TXT change due. This will be TXT dimes. I'm sorry, quarters. This will be TXT dimes. This will be TXT nickels. And oops, what did I do here? That'll be TXT nickels. Change that one, so that'll be pennies. And that'll be nickels. All right, finally, then this will be, what do we have here? Calculate, clear, and exit, I believe. So, ETN calculate with the word calculate. It's probably going to take longer to build the interface here and name everything than it will be to write the program. So, clear, BTN clear, and exit, BTN exit, and exit. All right, as I like to do, I'm going to come in here and highlight everything, and I'm going to change the font. Again, just make it 18.25. You can change the font type and stuff in here too, and it'll, that'll work just fine. But I'm keeping this fairly simplistic. All right, so let's go in here and on these, let's make these a little wider. There we go. And as always, I like to push these to the right, middle right. So there we go. I don't know if that looks good there or bad there. You draw your own conclusions, but it's okay. This is weird because notice how that's centered and that is not. Now it is. All right. So that size is 139.57. There we go. Okay, what's left? Two things. First, let's do a Control A here, and let's lock this into place. Then I think I've already set the start position to center screen. Let's set our accept button to BTN calculate. Let's set our cancel button to BTN clear. And let's set our tab order. So this will be 0. These are going to all be read-only. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, that should be everything. And another view tab order. So that's set. What do we have left then? I'm going to make this look a little nicer. So I'm going to center all of this. Okay, so that's done. Now let's think about what we want to do here. Whenever I clear, I want to clear all these. In fact, let's make these read-only. And you can change the color on that too if you don't like the gray. You can make it to something else. It doesn't matter. But whenever I click the clear button, I want this to clear, 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 and I want that to come back here. Exit we've already got. I mean, I've given you the code already. So there's the calculate. There's the clear. And there's the exit. All right, let's first go in and grab our exit code like I like to do. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab from in here. I don't need that. I need my exit button. So I'm going to grab all that, and then that will be done. All right, so that's finished. In my clear, I want a txt change do dot text equals the empty string txt quarters dot text equals the empty string txt dimes dot text equals the empty string txt nickels dot text equals the empty string txt pennies dot text equals the empty string and txt change do dot focus. Oops, focus. All right, and again, since I'm a little anal about this, all right, so I should have all that done already. So let's check. So file, save all. Again, I don't need these, I'm not using them, so I can remove them. So save, and let's run it. All right, I'll just put anything I want in here. Okay, I cannot put anything in here because these are read-only. So clear, hoping that that's working. Exit, no. Exit, yes. Okay, I think I'm in good shape. So btn calculate. Let's come in here and first let's add some constants. And we will put in an int, const, int, and we'll call it min value. And you got to put it at least a penny. So equals 1. What doesn't it like here? There we go. Const int max value. And I'm going to make that $9.99. So again, you can keep that at 99 if you want, the way they have it in the book. It doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to put in here const int QUARTER value. That'll be equal to 0.25. Morning. And we'll make this let's make it a decimal because we haven't used decimals yet. So we'll make that a decimal. And it'll be worth 0.25. And with decimals, you need to put an M on the end. Okay, so. And I'm going to copy this. Quarter, dime, nickel, penny. So this will be dime value. This will be nickel value. And this will be penny value. All right, so what do we have here? So quarter value, that is okay the way it is. Dime value will be 0.10 M. Nickel value will be 0.05 M. And penny value will be 0.01 M. So those are all done. Again, sorry I'm a little anal about this stuff. I like it when stuff lines up. So I've got all that done. Okay, so what do we want to do in here? Well, kind of like we did before, we have to check for a few things. We have to check and see if, first, we have to check and see if it's empty. Right here, if this is empty. Then we have to check and see if it's numeric. Then we have to see whether it's within range. So you can see how similar this is to the last program that we wrote. But I am going to add a little caveat on here. And this is something that we're going to hit on in a later chapter, but I just think you can understand it now. All right, what I'm doing right now isn't going to be anything earth-shattering. You'll see it as we go on. So the first thing I want to do is I want to check for no input at all. All right, we did this before, and we came in here, and I'll make a bool, I'll call it result. Okay, and I'll make in here, I'll make a decimal, and I'm going to call it change. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say result equals integer, int.tryparse. And no, I don't want all this stuff that is shown there, but we'll fix that right away. So what do I want to parse? txt change do.text, and the out is going to be change. Now that's either going to work or it's not going to work. All right. Now I've got here int parse, and I'm sticking it into a decimal, so I'll have to say decimal.tryparse. Okay, so again, either that's going to work or it's not going to work. So if not result, meaning what I put in there was not numeric. Or I'm sorry, there was nothing in there whatsoever. Let's see, I couldn't parse it. Well, I actually would. I got ahead of myself here, so let me do this again. So if txt change do.text is equal to nothing, then what I want to do is something like this. Let me take this right now for now and comment it out. Okay, what I want to do is basically say message box, and I'll say what I want to say is something like this. I want to say no input in change do text box. So I want to say that. I'm going to change this eventually, and I'll show you why in a minute. So nothing input. And I'm going to make this with just an OK button and an error. All right. So I'm going to do the message box. What doesn't it like here? It's got to be a message box dot show. Okay, so now everything's cool. And even though I don't have to clear it, I'm going to say txt change do.text equal nothing and return. Okay, now this is going to work. It's going to be just fine. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a file save all, which is always a good idea. And I'm going to put nothing in there. And I'm going to hit calculate. And I get nothing input, no input in change in change do text box. Okay, I got to change that from a month to amount, but that's fine. And I didn't put my cursor back there. I'll put that back there too. txt change do dot focus. All right, let's quickly, because otherwise I'll forget to do it. Let's change that from a month to amount. Yeah, it looks a little nicer. There we go. I'm on a change to. Now, what I'm trying to show you here is this, that now I can undo this, and I can do my result, and if not result, I'm just going to grab this, put in my curly braces, and in here, I'm going to paste that in. Now, this will work. I want to show you this will work. So this is not input. I'm going to put non-numeric input. And here I'll put also non-numeric input. So now, when I run this, if I leave nothing there, it says nothing input, no input, and change to text box. If I do it again and put something non-numeric, it says non-numeric input and change to text box. That's all fine. Not a problem. However, you may or may not have noticed there's a lot of duplicative code here. So I'm going to write myself my own routine. Okay? And I'm going to put in here private. We're going to get into what all this stuff means, void. And I'm going to type in here show message. And I'm going to pass in a string, which is going to represent the title. And whoops, I'm sorry. A string which represents the title, and another string, that represents the message, and a string that represents the title. All right, if you don't get this, just bear with me, please, for a minute, okay? All right, so I'm going to say message. Let me steal this. I'm going to grab all of that stuff. So messagebox.show, and now this is going to be more generic. This is going to say message and title. Now I'm going to get an error. Don't worry, it'll go away in a moment. Now it should go away. It did. All right. So now I've got one routine that should be able to handle both of these. What do I mean? Well, now I'm going to call show message, and I'm going to pass this in for my message, and I'm going to pass this in for my title. Now I don't need any of this stuff. And I don't need any of this. You can start seeing how this is going to be a little cleaner. All right. So now I'm going to come down here and do the same thing. I'm going to put in show message. This will be my message. Whoopsie. This will be my title. I don't need any of this. And I don't need any of this. And you can see how I've cleaned this up. And I have a lot less duplicative code. Now, so this is check for no input at all. This is going to be check for non-numeric input. And then finally, I'm just going to copy all of this. And now I'm going to come in and I'm going to check for out of range input. All right, so I don't need this or this, but I'm going to come in here and say if, well, what was my input? Well, the input is right, let's see, it's change. So if change is less than min value, or change is greater than max value, meaning either I put in, don't know why I need that. Oh, I know why. All right, let's fix this. These will be decimals also. DECIMAL, DECIMAL, IMAL. Okay. So this will have to be 1M, and this will have to be 999M. And I could just do this too. I could say 1.00M and 999 point. We can even put in there, we'll leave it at 00M. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, what's left? Well, we're getting there, believe me. So we've got this result. There's nothing in there to this. What happened to my second check? I don't know. So that was out of range. Somehow I lost my code there for check for non-numeric input. So I'll put it back in again. Result equals decimal dot try parse, and we want to do that and that's good. If not result, people are blasting emails, so if you hear the beeps behind me or a beep on my machine, that's what it's for. This will say non-numeric input in the text box, and this will also say non-numeric input. All right, so now if it's out of range, I don't want this to say non-numeric. No, this should now work fine with max value. All right, and I'm going to put in here, it's all right, I'll look at that in a second. Out of range input in there, so OOR, and we will put in there, we will put in a message too. So let's put in a \n, and we will add to that plus, we will put in here acceptable range is 1 through 999, just so the user knows. Now, what doesn't it like here? It says does not exist because I did that. Here we go. Now everything should be hunky-dory. Now, I'm not done, but believe it or not, I'm almost done. So now, if we have nothing in there, we get our nothing input, no input in there. If we put in something non-numeric, we get non-numeric input. And if we put in something out of range input, acceptable range is 1 through 999. I don't need that paren there, but I'll fix that in a moment. And also, if I put in 1000, I should get the same error message, and I do. Good. All right. So let's see, non-numeric input and acceptable range is that through that. I don't need that. All right, so if I get down to here, a value between 1 and 999 was input. Figure out change do. Okay? All right. So now what do I need in here? Well, there's my change, but I'm going to need this. I'm going to need an int, and I'm going to call it number of quarters. And another int that I'm going to call number of dimes. And another one, this is going to be int number of nickels. And one more int number of pennies. Now, notice in here I did not give them initial values. So they are automatically initialized to 0. All right. I'm also going to need another variable, and you'll see why in a minute, that I'm going to just call change left. So that's change. I'm going to call this change remaining. Okay. And again, I'll get all these things under there because, whoops, because right now they're not being used. So let's use them. So we're going to come in here. And the first thing I'm going to say is number of quarters equals, now this might be 0, and that's okay. All right, it's going to be, yeah, I will want to make this an integer, int change divided by quarter value, 0.25. In fact, let's see. I don't think I need to make these. I'm going to go back and I'm going to change all of these to ints. Hopefully it'll make sense why I'm doing it in just a minute. It's going to give me errors in all these till I get rid of all of this. All right, that should all be okay now. There. So, and the reason for that is, notice these are all integers, so these really should be integers too. And you can say, well, why do you have 25 there? Because I'm going to divide it by 25. So let me go back in here now. And the change that we put in, I made that a decimal. I think that can be an int as well. Okay, so that's everything. All right, so I don't have to do this anymore. All right, so that's going to be the number of quarters. And again, it can be 0. Now I want to peel off the number of quarters, etc., that I put in there. I don't want to do my dimes yet. No, I want to say change remaining equals change modulo quarter value. All right, and then I'm going to do this. So now number of dimes is going to be the change, everywhere in here now it's going to be change remaining divided by dime value. And the change remaining will now be the change remaining modulo dime value. All right, so now I can come in here and I can do my nickels. And now my change remaining, whatever is going to be left, all right, should just be my number of pennies. That actually should be it for the whole program. All right, now we'll see if it works or not. So I'm going to say txt quarters dot text equals number of quarters dot toString. Txt dimes equals number of dimes to string. Txt nickels equals number of nickels to string, and txt pennies equals number of pennies to string. I think I'm finished. Oops. Like that. So let's give it a run. It's giving me an error. Oh, to change. Cannot be. Oh, this is now going to be an int. dot try parse. Okay, not a problem. So let's start with something simple. How about 97 cents? 97 cents would be 3/4. That's 75. In fact, we'll change it. 1 3/4, 75. 1 dime would be 85. 1 nickel would be 90. And 4 pennies would be 94 cents, if I did it right. So 3/4, 1 dime, 1 nickel, 4 pennies. Clear? Let's try something bigger. 567 cents. 22/4. So 22 times 25 is 550, 560, 565, 566, 567. And I believe we've got it working. Still, with nothing in there, we get that error message. With non-numeric, we get that error message. And with something too big, we get that error message. All right, so let's try 999. So that's 39/4, 2 dimes, no nickels, and 4 pennies. Let's try something that's real simple. How about 75, which should give us 3/4 and everything else should be empty. And it is. All right, let's try a dime. And that works. Let's try a nickel. And that works. Let's try 3 cents. And that works. It appears as though everything is working. So let's take just a moment and go over the entire program, and then I'm going to go on into Chapter 6. So these were my constants. The minimum allowable value in there was a penny. The maximum was 999 cents. Every quarter's worth is worth 25 cents, or 25. Dimes, 10, nickels, etc. We don't even need penny value. We're not using it. All right? Then let's just jump down. When we're clearing, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are clearing out, and we are putting the cursor back to there, which is this line. The exit I've gone over with you previously. So we come down to here. In our calculate, here's our variables. These are local variables, meaning that by default, they're only known within this particular module. Now, what we'll eventually do with a program like this is we will write one routine to give us the number of quarters, another one for the number of dimes, another one for the number of nickels, another one for the number of pennies, etc. Okay? And we'll just move this code around, but I'm not going to do that right now. I don't want to confuse you any more than I possibly already have. So if there's nothing in there, we call our new routine called show message, and we pass that show message, and that title, and we just return. If we put in something non-numeric, we again call show message, we give it that message and that title. So if we get down to here, the text box not empty, so check for non-numeric input. So if we get down to here, text box holds an integer, check for out of range, which is what we're doing here. Now somehow I got extra curly braces in there. No idea how, but I don't need that. And I don't need that. Should fix that. Let's move this over. There we go. All right. Then, as it says, figure out a value was input, so figure out the change due. All right. So the first thing we're going to do here is calculate number of quarters in change due. Okay. Then we're going to calculate the number of dimes. And again, any of these, as you've already seen, any of these can be empty, meaning that it would be 0. All right, and that's everything. Again, you look in here, and I'm a little over 100 lines, 115 lines, but I put in quite a bit of documentation. All right, so let's do another file, save all. I'm going to close this, and this change calculator, I'm throwing everything into here. I don't know if I'm going to give you this or if we're going to do it as a class. I don't really know. I'll figure that out once the semester begins. And now I should be able to jump into Chapter 6. All right, now it's going to get a little different. We're going to talk about coding methods and event handlers. And I gave you an example of that already by showing the extra method that we wrote for handling our change calculator. Okay, at the end of this chapter, what do they have you write in here? Simple calculator. We can do that, but what I'll do though is we'll worry about that when we get there. All right, so I'll be back with Chapter 6 in just a couple minutes.